Kinetic energy and oxygen are two of the most simple yet effective ways to sustainably lose weight, and I want to talk to you about them today on this podcast. My name is Ev Cantor. I've lost and gained hundreds of pounds through my 20-year journey in search of sustainable weight loss, and I overcame a 10-year struggle of binge eating disorder. So I've learned a lot and I've tried a lot, and two of the things that have been so helpful that I still keep with me to today is the kinetic energy understanding and the oxygen understanding. So I want to talk to you about them because they're so helpful for me. My hope is they can be helpful for you. So ironically, humans are a lot like the technology we use every day. Let's talk about your cell phone. You charge your cell phone up from 0% to 100%, and you use it through the day, it loses charge, and you charge it back up. And the way you charge it is via either a wireless charger or plugging it into the wall. It's that simple, very easy to understand. Well, humans also have, let's just say, a 0 to 100% charge. But instead of being as simple as just plugging us in the wall, we're a little bit more complex in how we charge, but also more sustainable. We don't need a wall to charge, but instead we charge from sunlight. We charge from movement, aka kinetic energy. We charge from food. We charge from sleep. We charge from grounding, stepping in the earth outside. We charge from breathing. There's many ways that we charge, but there's also many ways that we lose energy. We lose energy from not getting enough sleep. We lose energy from sleeping too much. We lose energy from eating highly palatable processed foods that drain us. We lose energy by sitting on our TVs or watching TV too much, or sitting on our phones and scrolling through social media, or playing video games, aka too much screen time. We lose energy through many ways. And it's interesting because there's so many ways that you lose energy and there's so many ways that you gain energy. And when you start to understand how certain activities and actions and things in your day make you feel, and what things help you gain energy and what things help you lose energy, it starts to become an empowering understanding. And why is that? Well, when you start to lose energy, unlike a phone where you just plug it in the wall, as a human, your body starts to push you towards ways to get energy. If you're feeling really drained, you might feel more cravings, like I want to go eat a highly palatable food. That's very normal. You might get a craving for fast foods. You might get a craving for processed foods with lots of sugar, like cakes and donuts and ice creams and so forth. And you get these cravings because your body's saying, I need energy. And maybe it's saying that because you've been sitting too long through the day. You're sedentary, so you're draining energy. Or maybe it's saying that because you didn't get enough sleep. Or maybe it's saying that because you're spending too much time on your phone or your video games or on the TV. So not saying that you have to give in to those cravings, but a lot of times it becomes hard to quiet those cravings. And not impossible by any means, but it would make life a lot easier if you had them less often. And no, you're not going to be perfect. You are going to have bad days. You're going to get less sleep on certain days. You're going to, have to work extra hours and your job's really sedentary, or there's going to be things that happen and you'll get cravings. That's life. You'll drain your energy, right? So you want to find ways to deal with that, right? On the days where you do have bad days, which I talk about or will talk about in other podcasts. But you also want to try to position yourself to where you have less of those days. And to do so, you can simply use kinetic energy and oxygen. And that's what I do. So kinetic energy is energy which the body possesses by virtue of being in motion. And in other words, you move your body and you produce energy. Say you're having a day where you're at 50% energy, you're not feeling so great. If you were to go outside and take a 20, 30-minute walk, you might find that your energy jumps up to like 80, 90%. You're feeling so much better. You're out there on the walk, you're even breathing in oxygen while you're on the walk. Any type of movement like that, even if slow, you're still getting in more oxygen and you're building in that kinetic energy in your body. And it's so helpful. And it doesn't have to be a walk. It can be, that's what I do, but it can be a bike ride. It can be a hike. It could be doing chores. It could be shopping at a store somewhere. It could be swimming. It could be Pilates. It could be yoga, whatever the case may be. And another thing is the baseline for where you receive a good energy, a good charge from that changes. If you're just starting out, maybe 5 to 10 minutes is great and that's what you want to do. And then maybe as you get more in shape or maybe as you lose more weight, you might jump up to 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, whatever. But there are levels to where you start getting diminishing returns. If you run a 10-mile marathon, you're going to feel exhausted. If you're doing too much, you're going to feel diminishing returns. So you have to find that balance. And it's not to say you can't sometimes go super hard and run an extra mile or two or whatever because you're trying to achieve goals or so forth. You don't want to put those extremes on this. You just want to understand that kinetic energy is real. And oftentimes when you're low in energy, you might think you need to go to foods. You might think you need to go towards your cravings or those highly palatable foods. But instead, you should try these natural, free, sustainable energy sources, such as kinetic energy. And going into number 2, oxygen. Oxygen is very natural, obviously. Humans need it to survive. A lot of organisms on the earth need it to survive. Oxygen helps you process food. It helps your digestion. It helps your blood flow. It helps your brain. I mean, we need it. It's amazing. It's so simple. But a lot of people don't do just simple breath work throughout the day. And they kind of get intimidated by the idea of breath work. And it makes sense. You just breathe naturally. You don't want to make it work, right? But I've implemented, and, in my past, I've implemented this too, but along with unsustainable practices. But when you implement this with sustainable practices, it's amazing. But I've implemented breath work prior to my meals. And I call it meal meditation because it helps me get so focused and present during my meal that I'm able to better understand my hunger and fullness cues. I'm eating from a healthier place. And that helps me tremendously when it comes to sustainable weight loss. When I say I've done it before, but with unsustainable practices, is actually a long time ago, many, many years ago, I learned about this mental meditation, essentially, or meal meditation, where I would focus and do this breath work and get so conscious with my meals. And I sustained my weight loss. I lost all the weight and sustained it for like 8 to 10 months. And it was for the first time in my life where I really thought I officially beat my problems. I officially sustained weight loss. I'm good. And realistically, if I didn't have so much restriction and control and such back then, I probably would have. I eventually broke, but oxygen alone, just doing meal meditation, just breathing before my meals and during my meals, changed and made such a big difference and was such a game changer that I was able to lose all the weight and sustain it for 8 to 10 months despite everything else. So that's how game changing oxygen is. But I'm going to talk about what meal meditation is and how I use oxygen in my days. Of course, it can be a little different from you. There's different breath work techniques and all that stuff. But what I do is a simple 20-second breathing exercise prior to my meal. And I try to get conscious and eat my meal. So I'm going to take you through it. So the first thing I do is I breathe in for 4 seconds. So I go, then I hold my breath for 8 seconds, and then I let my breath out for 8 seconds. So it's 4 in, hold 8, out 8. That's 20 seconds total. And as soon as I do that, I feel my body like it's a thermostat. And if my head is super the red part and I'm breathing out on that 8, I literally physically feel the red part drop to my neck, drop to my stomach, drop to my legs, to my feet. It's like I'm literally physically lowering my thermostat. And by doing that, I'm like basically taking all the stresses of the day, whether it's your work or your family or your friends or, whatever the case may be, you're taking that stress and you're throwing it out. You're saying, okay, I'm getting present. And then the next thing I do is I start eating my meal. And I want to put a quick caveat is sometimes I have to do this twice. I am a business owner and I sometimes get calls right before meals, or I'm handling something that's stressful. I'm putting a fire out. And sometimes I have days where I need to do this breath work twice to really feel that thermostat come down. It's almost never needed more than twice, but I just want to point that out in case maybe you do it once and you're just having a really stressful day. It's okay to do it twice. And also in the past, what I've done is I've implemented positive affirmations with it. Not necessary, you don't have to, but I've done it. And I did that breath out on the last 8 seconds. And then I'll say in my head or out loud, I am strong, I am powerful, I am enough. And you can even say amen if you're religious, whatever the case may be. And then you can begin eating. And then you start eating, and I want you in that moment, you'll be so grounded because you just lowered your thermostat and you're present. I want you to turn your phone upside down or kind of push it to the side or keep it away from your sight. And I want you to not have a TV on. I don't want you to be on social media. I don't want you to do any of that. And you just focus on your meal. And I want you to eat it slow. So you take your first bite and you're chewing it and you're tasting it and you're really enjoying that moment. Maybe you take your second bite, maybe you put your fork or your spoon down. You're eating it slow, you're chewing it, then maybe you pick your fork or spoon up, you move your food around for a second, you take another bite, and you're just going slowly. You're eating your meal slowly. And then as you're eating your meal, you just take a nice breath in through your nose. You don't have to do it too early. You wait till you're, decently through your meal, whatever. You should do it relatively naturally. You might have seen other people do it naturally in the past where someone's getting real full at a dinner table and they go, "Ooh, I'm full." Like they take a big breath in and they talk about how full they are. Maybe they slap their stomach, whatever the case may be. And it's very natural because the oxygen is helping you digest and process your food. So you should hopefully do it naturally. But if you don't, you can also just do it. It's like a check, a nose breath in check of like, how full am I right now? And you do those throughout your meal just a couple times. You're not like a weirdo sniffing and breathing in air constantly throughout your meal, but it's like a mental check or a fullness check, just to be like, okay, I'm feeling pretty full right now. And as you're eating, you're putting your fork down, you're picking it up, you're taking slow bites, you're tasting your food. If your mind starts to wander, you can try your best to bring it back to this meal you're eating and how delicious it is. And then as you're getting towards the end, you might be like, all right, I'm pretty full. I'm getting full here. My body's telling me I'm pretty satisfied, but this meal's so good. I'll take one or two more bites and I'm done. So you put the food in your mouth and you put your fork down and you're done. Even if there's food left over or not, whatever the case may be, you're good. And you're so much more grounded. Your food is digesting better. You're feeling more, healthy and comfortable with your fullness cues and your hunger cues. And maybe even after that, you go take a little walk, which even helps digestion even more. And boom, you're getting even kinetic energy from that. And, without diving into the specifics of what kind of meal you should eat or all those things about nutrition and, balanced, sustainable energy from their foods, I just wanted to talk about the oxygen component and the kinetic energy component because they are so impactful and empowering and helpful to bring that energy up. But I do want to say that, removing the kinetic energy and oxygen, and say you got a bad night's sleep and you go out and you eat a processed food or something because your body's telling you you really need that energy, you might eat that and it might charge you up. Say you're at 30%, it might charge you up to like 60, 70%. You're feeling great. You're re-energized because you just had that donut and that milkshake. But the problem is because it's not sustainable energy, you're going to end up crashing in 30 minutes and then you're going to be at 20%, 15%, 10%. You're going to be exhausted. And you might have experienced this before, but then maybe you need to go take a nap. You're so drained from energy from the food that you just ate that maybe you now need to go take a nap because it wasn't sustainable food. So without getting into like nutrition and stuff, I just wanted to put that side note in there just to say like, the meals you eat do matter. And it doesn't mean you have to be perfect. Again, not going to extremes. It's okay to have things from time to time. But remember that, foods matter, and sustainable energy, blood sugar spikes, all those things do come based on the foods you eat and how you, position your meals. And you should think about that because, in the end of the day, if you're like a cell phone, hopefully your goal is to have a good charge through the day. And by having a good charge through the day, on most days, you're going to be positioning yourself so that you are going to have less cravings. You're going to have less issues. You're going to be getting more done, and your days will just feel better and lighter and brighter. It's such a better way to live when you can orchestrate your day around natural, sustainable energy. And two of my favorite approaches are kinetic energy and oxygen. You might like, getting out in the sun more, but again, too much sun, it will drain you. You'll get diminishing returns. Grounding can be helpful, like I was saying, getting a good night's sleep. These are all things that can help you feel better, that can keep your energy sustained throughout the day. And then by the end of the day, when it's time to recharge and go to bed or whatever, you can be like, man, today was so good. I had these healthy meals. I was so focused, and I did my breath work before each one, and I checked in and I ate to my fullness levels. And then I made sure to take one or two walks, or I did a walk and I went and worked out at the gym, or whatever your approach is. And, you'll feel bad. You'll feel better, not only physically, but also mentally. And kinetic energy and oxygen, game changers for the mind and the body, game changing for sustainable weight loss. Keep them in mind. And I hope this podcast was helpful. I'll see you in the next one.